The OnePlus 5 is a notable step up from the OnePlus 3T, which already has top of the line specs, and it's built by a company we're all rooting for. It does have some controversial features that no one saw coming. Let's take a look at the 5 best and 5 worst features found on this device, and from there you can decide whether or not this new flagship is even worth considering. Let's start it off with the pros. From $479 from upwards to $539, you're getting a Snapdragon 835, 6 to 8 GB of RAM, 64 to 128 GB of UFS 2.1 storage, dual cameras, Bluetooth 5.0, faster LTE speeds with Cat 12 support, everything else found on the OnePlus 3T, and more. You're definitely getting your money's worth even if the price went up a bit. Sure, you'll be missing out on a couple features found on other higher priced flagships like a thin bezel Quad HD display, water resistance, or a better camera sensor, but for those looking for a phone at this price range, you probably shouldn't be expecting those features to begin with. If I were in the market for a decently cheap smartphone that could easily last me for another 1 to 2 years without becoming too outdated, I wouldn't look anywhere else. When it comes to software, OnePlus always delivers, and the 5 is no exception. It's running the latest release of Oxygen OS on Android 7.1.1, and the overall interface is cleaner and lighter than ever. It has no bloatware, very few design tweaks when compared to stock Android, and some additional features that are appreciated. Some of the newer features include an auto night mode, which automatically adjusts the color temperature depending on your current time, 3 new off-screen letter gestures to activate a specific function or app, customizable vibration, a reading mode that uses grayscale mapping to provide a reading experience similar to an e-reader, secure box to lock away private files in the File Manager app, and so much more. There's plenty of minor modifications that I left out, but if you're coming from a Pixel or a Nexus, you'll definitely be familiar with the UI. The overall performance of this device is also great. Sure, they may have cheated a bit with the benchmarking apps, as you may have heard, but they really didn't need to do that. You can't go wrong with the Snapdragon 835 and 6 to 8 GB of RAM, especially since the OnePlus 5 has fewer pixels to handle and the interface is not overloaded with bloatware or unnecessary features. Animations are buttery smooth, opening and switching between apps is noticeably faster than the 3T, and navigating throughout the interface is a pleasure. This is still one of the fastest phones you can get right now, and it's no surprise since OnePlus has always succeeded in this particular area for quite a while now. Next great feature in my opinion is the battery life. Even though it has a bit less capacity than its predecessor at 3300 mAh, it still got me through the entire day without any extra charging. Personally, I'm a heavy user with Bluetooth, GPS, Wi-Fi, or cellular data enabled at all times, along with my brightness turned almost to the max. I saw an on-screen time of around 4 to 5 hours, and you could probably push to 6 or 7 if you're a light user. Even if you forget to charge the device overnight, you can throw it on the dash charge and you'll get a full charge in under an hour. Overall, a decent battery that will easily last you the entire day. The last best feature before we move on to the cons would have to be the fingerprint sensor. Last year, the OnePlus 3T had the fastest fingerprint sensor on a smartphone, and it still does, but now the OnePlus 5 is here to take its place, and it unlocks even faster. With just a light tap, the phone unlocks in 0.2 seconds, and it recognizes it extremely well. A lot of people would have preferred it to be on the back, but I actually enjoy this placement as I can unlock the device while it's flat on a surface. It may not be the main reason as to why you buy the phone, but it's nice to know that it's the fastest one yet. Switching over to the cons, keep in mind that some of these are a bit nitpicky, so they are undesirable features, but nothing that will make you believe that the OnePlus 5 is a horrible phone. One of the biggest controversies about this device is definitely the overall design. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy the materials used. The aluminum build on the back feels nice in the hand with good tactile button placement, a slightly smaller camera hump, and that nice alert slider. They're all welcome, but my main pet peeve is that it's pretty boring. It looks very generic to other rectangular phones. There are only 2 color variants to choose from that look almost identical, midnight black or slate gray. And it sort of looks like an iPhone with a similar dual camera placement and the crescent shaped antenna lines. Not to mention that it's also a bit slippery in the hand, even more than the 3T, and that's due to the more rounded and slick unibody frame. I'm not saying that it's a horrible design, but they could have done better in my opinion. As a result, I decided to solve these issues with a skin from Dbrand. Definitely can't go wrong with a stone design such as their marble finish. It makes the phone a bit more unique, provides more personality, better grip, and doesn't make the phone any bigger like a case does. I'll drop a link right below that like button. The next con is definitely a minor one, but when you notice it, you notice it. It has to do with the display. Not that it's still 1080p resolution or that it's not a tall 18:5 panel, but that the screen is mounted upside down. This causes a bug known as the jelly effect, where when you scroll up and down, such as on your Twitter feed or pulling up on an app drawer, the content on the screen seems to be stretching away in a literal jelly motion. It's not very clear as to why OnePlus decided to do this. It won't be solved with a software update as it's a hardware issue, and replacing the device won't guarantee you getting rid of this effect as there's no screen variation in the manufacturing process. So for now, all we can do is ignore it and move on. Kind of annoying, but what can you do? Another issue has to do with the specific features within the rear dual cameras. The primary sensor has 16 megapixels with an aperture size of f1.7, and the second one has a whopping 20 megapixels with an f2.6 aperture. The second camera is meant to be a telephoto lens, so when you want to take a zoomed in picture, it will not lose as much detail when compared to a phone that only digitally zooms in. It does sound cool, but it's kind of a gimmick. One of the problems with having a smaller aperture size is that it doesn't pull in enough light when taking shots at night, and so when it's too dark, the OnePlus 5 will automatically switch to the main camera and use digital zoom instead. This means fuzzier pictures with less detail at night. Another problem is that optical image stabilization isn't present on either sensor, so now everything is a bit more shaky. EIS is implemented within 1080p recordings for both the front and rear cameras, and it does work well, but once you switch to 4K resolution, there's no stabilization whatsoever, not even EIS. So 4K recordings will always be shaky no matter what. Other than that, the pictures taken in daylight for both rear cameras come out looking solid. I didn't have a problem with anything else in the camera, just a few things I would have changed or included to provide a better experience. The next worst feature is not as bad as the last three, it's just something I would have liked to see in the phone, and that's expandable storage. OnePlus has never aimed to include an SD card slot within any other devices, which is not a huge deal considering that 64GB is more than enough for most people and 128 is over the top. But the main reason I would have liked to see a feature like this is so I could store large amounts of data, such as music, pictures, photos, and so forth, in an external card. So when I happen to switch to a new phone, I can just swap it quickly and easily without having to worry about transferring everything over to my desktop or losing any picture or video quality through any cloud service. Not a huge deal, but something to keep in mind. Lastly, there's still no water resistance within this device. Now don't get me wrong, I know this is still a relatively inexpensive flagship, and corners must be cut, but now that the price is slowly increasing with each new release, this mid-tier phone is starting to turn into a top-tier flagship. I'm sure they'll get around to it soon enough since water resistance has become a common feature, but for now you can't go around getting underwater shots while playing in the pool or snorkeling. Well, that's it for this video. Let me know in the comments what you think about the OnePlus 5. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Check out AndroidPolice.com for some great Android news, and I will see you guys in the next one.